presentation, I chose albumin prints. Albumin was basically egg whites used as a binder for silver salts, and when used on glass, it resulted in negatives without grain, so it didn't have that grainy look to the image. It was also used in paper. The first process that could be practiced using albumin was published in France in 1847 by Louis Everard. Albumin process in a commercial scale was high, despite the fact that the prints themselves were subject to fading away and discoloration. These prints were rapidly incorporated as a new photographic technology and lasted 30 years. Using the albumin left a sharp definition, glossy surface, and a strong contrast in photographs. But although it left great results, it also had some disadvantages that made the production more demanding. The albumin would leave yellow color residue on prints comparable to stale cheese. It was confirmed by the Photographic Society of London and the Photographic Society of France that the yellow tone was caused by the size of the prints and by submerging it in hypobaths, interaction with pollution, among other causes. The albumin paper continued its use until the 1880s when significant new developments, negatives, and printing material became apparent. One of the photographers I chose that used albumin was Frederick Scott Archer, who used both the calotype and the daguerreotype at the beginning for his portraits. Although Archer used these two processes, he was not fully satisfied with the characteristics both of these would offer at the end. The daguerreotype would portray extremely detailed images but could only be used once. On the other hand, the calotype could repeatedly make positive copies of images, but the images would turn out soft and with a less sharp to it. With the calotype and daguerreotype process, Archer wanted to combine their strengths but eliminate their weaknesses. Following this, he found a problem in paper prints, in which paper was not a very good carrier of light, which softened the image. He found that glass could work better, so he came across the albumin process. At the end, Archer found the albumin containing on glass was too fragile to handle, and so he reached for other ways to better the images. This led to his big discovery in photography, which was the wet clothing process, in which it was a way to make light sensitivity increase and exposure time diminish. More about Frederick Scott Archer was that prior to his discovery of the wet clothing process, he used the albumin for many of his landscape photographs, and as I mentioned before, photography in albumin print was very high in commercial scale, so he used albumin for his photographs of landscape. It made it into a photo business, so that's the way it impacted his career significantly. He used this process to create an image that will leave a great impact in his career, that you could say leave him with money. So that made his business grow. Another photographer that I chose was Alexander Gardner from Washington. He's a photographer from Washington whose greatest work were those of the Civil War and albumin print. Gardner was the one who took pictures of a war named Antietam War, which was very deadly. In his pictures, Gardner recorded what was called the aftermath of the battles, where one could see from blood to fractured skulls or dead bodies in a row, which I will show you later on. Gardner achieved these photographs in the middle of the battlefields by carrying his darkroom and equipment with him. Another work that is talked quite often of Alexander's is the albumin portrait of the President Abraham Lincoln. It is believed that he took the last picture of the president in 1865, short before his assassination. In 1882, Alexander died, and even a portrait of him was made out of albumin silver print. And here is 3 photographs of Alexander. On the left, there is the portrait of him in 1863, made of albumin print. In the middle, it's a picture of the Antietam War, and as I mentioned before, you can even see the row which dead men lie on in the middle of the battlefield. And on the right, it's a picture of the President Lincoln, in which is also in the book. And these were all made out of albumin print. As for the description, interpretation, and evaluation part of the assignment, I chose another photographer who used albumin prints. His name was Henry Peter Robinson, in which 1857 he created the albumin print Never Told Her Love, based on a verse of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night book. This image was damaged by mold and soil, creating an uneven tone and gloss on the albumin print. My interpretation for this image was that, based on the fact that this albumin print is based off of a Shakespeare's book, and from the title, I can interpret sadness and pain. It's as if the girl is suffering from an untold love. The damage done on this photograph just exaggerates the picture furthermore, again transmitting sadness and loneliness. My evaluation for this is that I chose this picture because it does a good job at showing emotions, and not necessarily emotions that people show on the outside, but rather have in the inside. This picture shows what people feel but don't say towards somebody, whether that is love, happiness, contentment. Overall, this photograph does a good job at showing emotions. Original thoughts. My original thoughts on these 3 photographers, to begin with Alexander Gardner, the one who took pictures of the battlefield. I think he was really brave for being able to stand in the middle of the battle and photograph such tragic scenes. I mean, I think you have to have a good temper to be able to stand there and capture scenes that are very bloody. Some people can't even see blood. That are very tragic. And to be able to transmit those photographs so other people can see. So I think he was really brave for that. As for Frederick Scott Archer, he was really smart on trying to combine the daguerreotype and the calotype process, and later on coming up with the wet climb process, finding a way to make light sensitivity increase and exposure time diminish. It must have taken him a lot of time, a lot of trials, but with hard work, he accomplished even a new process. So I think for that he was really smart and really determined. Lastly, for Henry Peach Robinson, his albumin picture of Never Told Her Love is very powerful, I would say, to those who are romantics and for those who aren't even romantics, because it shows what it feels on the inside when love is involved. And even the picture, the characteristics of it, I mean, it was, like I said before, it was damaged with mold and soil, so it exaggerated the effect of the picture. A lot of emotions were combined within one picture: sadness, loneliness. Even by the way, if you saw how the girl was laying on the bed and dressed sort of as if it was a hospital gown, that transmitted a lot of negative emotions. So for that, I really like the interpretation of the photograph of Henry Peach Robinson. And here is my works cited. Thank you.